Today, I want to offer some comments, some thoughts on another verse from the Bhagavad-Gita. And this verse comes from the 18th chapter. It's the 66th verse of chapter 18. It's an intriguing verse, and I've always wanted to reflect a little bit about it. And this is my reflection, my meditation this morning on this verse. So first, the verse itself. Here Sri Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha yishyami ma shushaha. Sarva dharman parityajya. Parityajya means to give up or to renounce or to leave. So give up, leave, renounce what? Sarva dharman. Sarva means all. Give up all dharmas. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. And come to my love with love. Come to me with love. Come to my love with love. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Come to my one love with love. We'll come to the second line in this verse shortly. But that's the first line of this verse 66, chapter 18. It's an important verse in some traditions of Hinduism. The Vaishnava tradition, for example, list this verse as what they call a charama sloka, a verse of ultimate significance, ultimate meaning, charama sloka. Why is this verse important and perhaps even, as I said, intriguing? Is that dharma is a central teaching of the Hindu tradition. It is, as you know, one of the four goals of human life: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. There, as a goal in life, it refers to ethics or moral values, which are preeminent. And then, so you have commitment to ethics, followed by wealth, pleasure, and of course, moksha or liberation. So it's one of the four central goals of our Hindu tradition. It refers to all of the values and practices that sustain us as individuals, as communities, and even as a universe. And the importance of dharma may be appreciated from many perspectives, but it can also be appreciated from not only as one of the four goals of life, but the detailed way in which it is treated and regarded and discussed in the Hindu tradition, all the ways in which dharma is broken down. So, for example, we have many categories of dharma. We have what is called samanya dharma. Samanya dharma are universal ethical values that are to be honored and followed by all human beings, whoever you are, regardless of place or role in life. There are shared common values, samanya dharma, for which we are all responsible. These include practicing non-injury, ahimsa, practicing generosity, daya, being compassionate, karuna, practicing self-control, dhamma, and so on. So these are universal values, universal dharma values. And then you have, very specific dharmas. So you have samanya dharma, the universal values, and then you have vishesha dharma, which are the very specific values and practices that are related to our life stages. For example, ashrama dharma, my obligations, my duties, my values, if I am a student, if I'm a householder, and so on. Another category would be yuga dharma, which would be duties and obligations related to a specific time, a specific place that may not be valid for all times and all places. And then, there is swadharma, which speaks about one's professional or work obligations and responsibilities. So when we look at the Bhagavad Gita as a whole, in its entirety, we see that the text, in fact, gives a lot of value to observing and practicing dharma. In fact, the appeal to dharma is one of the central arguments made by Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita in his effort to persuade Arjuna to fulfill his responsibilities as a warrior to defend his society in the face of injustice and oppression. And Sri Krishna repeatedly reminds Arjuna about the importance of swadharma, his professional responsibilities. So he says there, some of you might remember, these occur, in various places in the Bhagavad Gita, but here's an example from chapter 2. Swadharma mapi cha veksha na vikampitum arhasi. Arjuna, consider your responsibilities, as a warrior. Swadharma api cha veksha. Think about your responsibility, your obligations to the society. And if you do that, you should not withdraw from this call, from this task before you. So I can give you so many examples. Again, in the same second chapter, verse 33, Athachet twamimam dharmyam samgramam na karishyasi tataf swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. If you ignore your responsibilities, your swadharma, and you walk away from this battle, you would incur both papam, or sin, and also you will lose your honor in your community. Your community would think that Arjuna, when he was called to defend us against injustice, he walked away from the battlefield. Kirti, your honor that you have accumulated, the fame that you have gathered over a lifetime will immediately dissipate if you made the wrong choice, if you gave up swadharma. So he consistently in the Bhagavad Gita returns to the importance of dharma and the importance of fulfilling obligations associated with dharma. Even at one point saying that, even though you may fulfill your dharma imperfectly, it is better than giving it up for anything else. So we see in the text as a whole, as I am saying, the emphasis, the significance of fulfilling the duties and obligations that are described in various ways in this umbrella term, dharma, and in a very particular way, the fulfillment and importance of swadharma. But in this verse, towards the end of the text, verse 66 in the 18th chapter, we have this very interesting statement from Sri Krishna. Sarva dharman parityajya. Give up all dharmas. Sarva dharma parityajya. Mam ekam sharanam vraja, and come to my love with love, or come to my love in love. So it's the first time, we hear a call in the Bhagavad-Gita to give up dharma, sarva dharma, parityaja. So how do we make sense of this? What is Sri Krishna saying? How do we read this verse in the context of the entire Bhagavad Gita? Because we know, in the Hindu tradition, there are certain rules of interpretation. How do we arrive at the right meaning of a text? The traditional commentators, the traditional interpreters have given us a series of rules to help us arrive at right meaning, right interpretation, because all texts have to be interpreted as because they are in the form of words. And one of the guidelines, or at least two of the guidelines, is to look at how a text begins, the beginning, and how a text ends. So a good teacher always highlights the important point of his lesson at the beginning and then returns to it again at the end. So this is called, these are the principles of upakrama, upasamhara, how a text begins and how a text ends give us a good clue to what is the meaning, what is the underlying meaning of this text. So here we are coming to the end of the text. We are at the 66th verse, and we encounter Sri Krishna's call here, Sarva Dharman Parityajya. So then we must ask ourselves, is this a radical change in teaching? Is he asking Arjuna to give up now all duties and obligations, including his role as a warrior, and to enter into the life of a monk, a sannyasin? Because when you become a monk or a renunciant, a sannyasin in the Hindu tradition, you are entitled to give up all dharmas. That's the one place, the one role that legitimizes sarva dharman parityajya. So is he asking Arjuna to give up all dharmas and to embrace the life of a monk? Some read this verse in that way, but I don't think so. I think it would be odd. It would be odd indeed for Sri Krishna to teach throughout the text, right until this verse, the importance of fulfilling dharma, swadharma, and then at the end ask that these be given up. Why not say this at the very beginning? Because throughout the text, when we read carefully, his message is that as long as you have a body, nahi deha brita shakyam tyaktum karman yasheshitaha. As long as you have a body, you can't give up actions and responsibilities in the world. That has been his message. Niyatam kuru karma tvam, karma dhyayo hakarmanaha, sharira yatra pichate, na prasiddhyeda karmanaha. That niyatam kuru, your duties and your obligations should never be given up. And if you did, you would not, even the journey of your body becomes impossible if you do not engage in these actions. So this has been Sri Krishna's consistent message throughout the text. I mean, we have seen specifically his emphasis on Swadharma, but he has also been emphasizing that one cannot give up being active in the world, that life itself becomes impossible without the performance of some actions. So then we come back to the question, how should we read this verse? So here is my Here are my thoughts on this dilemma or this paradox, if you want to call it that way. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. I think we have to see the first three words, sarva dharman parityajya. Give up all dharmas. We have to see those three words in close relationship. They are inseparable from the next four words. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. Come to me, come to my love, in love, with love. There is a relationship there. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. In other words, the words sarva dharman parityajya do not stand alone. They are immediately followed by mam ekam sharanam vraja. So there must be a connection. There must be a relationship between the two halves of the first sentence in this verse 1866. And so what is that connection? I think that the important insight of this verse is a teaching, is in fact an insight about the centrality of love, the centrality of love and action. Now, dharma has many layers of meaning. Dharma, as I said, can refer also to moral values or to ethics. But dharma also has, as one of its meanings, duty or obligation in the world, those actions that you are required to do. And as I said, dharma can be broken down into various categories. So my family obligations, my family dharma would be kula dharma. These are the obligations that I owe to my family members as a mother or father in these roles. So kula dharma or swadharma would be my professional obligations. Ashrama dharma would be my responsibilities and duties related to my life stage, my life position. And so we can go on. Desha dharma, for example. What are my obligations as a citizen of a nation? We can speak also of that, of Desha Dharma. We can speak of what are my duties and obligations as a citizen of the world, Vishwa Dharma, as an inhabitant of the world. What do I owe the world conceived as a whole? So we have all of these different ways of speaking about dharma in the sense of duties and obligations. And so it is quite possible to efficiently fulfill all of these roles from a sense of duty or obligation. In a world in which so many human beings, unfortunately, lack a sense of duty or obligation, this is not to be condemned. A sense of duty is a commendable thing. It is a good thing to have, for people to have a sense of obligation and duty and seriousness about fulfilling those is a commendable thing and should never be condemned. So, because, for example, in our Hindu tradition, we speak of the 5 great obligations, Pancha Maha Yajna, our Deva Yajna, our obligations to God, to the divine. Rishi Yajna, our obligations to our teachers. Pitri Yajna, our obligations to our parents and grandparents, our ancestors. Manushya Yajna, our obligations and duties to other human beings. And we speak also of bhuta yajna, our duties and obligations to the natural world, non-human life forms. And all of these duties and responsibilities arise from the fact that we are not self-made. We exist interdependently. We depend on other beings and other agencies for our existence, other human beings, the natural world. And this means that we also have obligations and duties. We are receivers, and we also have to be givers. And when we speak ourselves as givers, we are speaking of our duties and our responsibilities, living in an interdependent, interconnected reality. So this verse is not arguing against the fulfillment of dharmas as duty, as responsibilities. But what it reminds us, what it is adding, and this is my suggestion, is that while fulfilling responsibilities in the world from a sense of duty is good and commendable, there is a higher meaning, there is a higher purpose, there is a deeper satisfaction when duty is motivated when dharma or duty is motivated by prema or love. There is a higher meaning, let me repeat that, there is a higher meaning, there's a higher purpose, there's a higher satisfaction when dharma is motivated by prema. Prema meaning love. There is no motivation higher than love. So the highest motivation for the fulfillment of dharma ought to be love or prema. Just as an example, as a parent, I have duties and obligations to my child or my children. I have brought them into the world, and it's proper that I have a sense of obligation and responsibility for bringing them up, for caring for my child, providing what my child needs so that he or she may flourish in this world, and he or she might realize the fullness of his or her potential, the fullness of his or her gifts. This is my Pitri Dharma. This is my responsibility as a father. It is important to have a sense of obligation in relation to my child and not to walk away from those obligations. But this obligation becomes so much more meaningful, fulfilling, purposeful when it is inspired, when it springs or is inspired by the warmth of love. The fulfillment of obligations motivated by love, complementing each other, enriches both me as a parent and my child, who understands my care as an expression, not just of a sense of duty, but as an expression of prema, as an expression of love. So dharma and prema are not mutually exclusive. They complement and they enrich each other. Prema or love expresses itself in dharma, and dharma gains meaning from prema. If dharma is the body with its organs of action, then perhaps prema is the heart, the source of love. Dharma is the active expression of prema. So Sri Krishna here, sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Come to my love in love. I think that has to be seen in relation to the first half, which is sarva dharman parityajya. The same is true. So what I am speaking about as pitri dharma, parental obligations and parental responsibilities as a father or mother, grandfather or grandmother, I want to say is the same also for worship, ritual worship. So when a murti is installed in a Hindu temple with the ritual of prana pratishta, there is an obligation to perform various rituals at different times of the day. This is it's a form of dharma also. But, and let me put this carefully, because I'm not saying that this is the reality. So please don't misconstrue what I am saying. I'm not saying that this happens, but I think that there is always a danger of even rituals being performed as an obligation without prema. It is not inevitable, but there's always the danger. If it is possible to have dharma without prema, it is possible also, if I would put it in this way, to have puja without prema. So even as dharma is enriched by prema, and if prema is the heart of dharma, I think we can say also prema is the heart of puja. Mahatma Gandhi, whose birthday we celebrated last week on October 2nd, once famously said, in prayer, speaking largely about worship, in prayer it is better to have a heart without words than words without a heart. It is better to have a heart without words than words, and we can add actions, rituals, without a heart. So I think Sri Krishna is not calling us to give up dharma with our responsibilities and duties in this world, because that would be inconsistent with what he has taught. But he's reminding us that all of these should be infused and inspired deeply by love. And through love for him, for the divine, everything that we do can also be infused with love. We have many examples from our sacred texts and from other religious traditions as well. I think one of the finest examples comes from the Ramayana, a text with which all of you are familiar. And it is the example of the finest, perhaps one of the finest servants of God in our tradition, Sri Hanuman. He was the embodiment of what it means to devote oneself to the service of the divine. Everything he did was an expression of his service to God. And at one point in the text, Sri Ram is deeply moved by the service of Hanuman and offers to reward him. What can I do for you in return for the way in which you have served me? the way in which you have devoted your life to my service. And his answer, Sri Hanumanji's answer, exemplifies what I am trying to say in my words this morning. And he says, he responded by saying that love for you is my joy. Natha bhakti ati sukhadayini. My Lord, my love for you is my joy. Bless me with the abundance of love for you. So he never gave up his responsibilities or duties, but he understood the deep, how satisfying, how purposeful, how meaningful is his work in the world for God, since it is rooted and comes from a place of love for God in the form of Sri Ram. And it is this that makes him such a excellent model for what it means to be a servant of God. You serve God not merely out of a sense of duty or obligation, but out of a deep place of love. Love filled him with vigor, with vitality, with joy, with meaning, with purpose. And he understood that love provided its own immediate satisfaction. The satisfaction of acting from love is always immediate. It is its own fulfillment. It is always here and now. I want to give you another example to think about from another tradition. And this is an example from Christianity, and it is an example from Jesus. What we see in the text that describe his life is that there are several significant moments when he is interrogated, he's questioned by the religious leaders, the Jewish religious leaders of his time, seeking to test his knowledge, not sincerely, but wanting to show him up as a deficient teacher and to assert their own authority. So there are several moments when they ask and interrogate him as a teacher, as a rabbi. So on one occasion, he was approached by these religious leaders, and he's asked a question. Rabbi, they said, teacher, which is the greatest? Which is the greatest commandment in the law? Now, you have to keep in mind that according to the Jewish tradition, there are at least 613, according to some tradition, there are 613 commandments. So asking which is the greatest is a very difficult, it's a challenging question, and I guess they hoped he would slip up and omit something that they considered to be particularly significant. So this is a question to him. Among the 613 commandments, which is the greatest in the law? So which practice, which ritual, they were waiting to see, would he lift up? What would he leave out? And what would he lift up as the greatest commandment? And he gave an answer that I think is not different in spirit from what we are seeing in the Bhagavad-Gita. His answer is as follows. Love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And then he added, on these two stand everything. On these two stand the entire law. So if you have the law without these two, the law is empty. The law lacks a heart, a purpose, a meaning. It would just be rules and rituals without love. It would be dharma without prema. So he focused not on the multiple or multiplying rules, but on the heart of the relationship. Love for God, compassion for others. So I see a parallel here. I think they are important connections. Now, in the verse before, so we are discussing 1866. No, but you can go back. 1865. 1865. Manmana bhava mad bhakta. Madhyaji mam namaskuru. Mame vaishyasi satyam te. Pratijane priyosime. Fill your minds with God. Love God. Honor God. You will surely attain God. So here, manmana, fill your minds. Mad bhakta, with love. Madhyaji mam namaskuru, with reverence. Mame vaishyasi. You will come, you will attain God. Very much like love God with all your heart, your soul, your mind. And then what does that mean for human relationships? Then we can also go back to Bhagavad Gita. We can go back to Krishna's teaching in chapter 12, where he says, when he describes who is the lover of God. Adveshta sarvabhutanam, maitre karuna evacha, niramamo nirahankara, samadukha sukha shami. Who is the lover of God? The one who is compassionate to others. The one who is free from hate and full of love. Adveshta sarvabhutanam. Maitri, who is a friend of all. Karuna, compassionate. Very, very much, the love of God expresses itself in the love of human beings. Love of God is inseparable from love of others. The vertical, if you put it in that way, the vertical and the horizontal converge in Bhagavad Gita and also in the teaching of Jesus. So what I want to suggest is that 1866 is not a call to abandon Dharma. I think that would be a very, very misleading interpretation, and it would run against the whole grain of what is central in the Bhagavad Gita. It would be totally inconsistent to read the text in this manner. But what it does is it brings something very beautiful to our attention. Is to lift up love as a higher principle, a principle that gives meaning to the fulfillment of duties and obligations, and integrates all of these in a very single-pointed way. It ensures, in fact, this is what ensures that the fulfillment of dharma is not motivated from ego or arrogance, but from love, and of course, from a place of loving humility. We may say, in reading this verse, that love for God expressed in a loving way in relationships with human beings is, in fact, our highest dharma. This is the dharma that gives meaning to all other forms of dharma. That the purpose of dharma is to draw us closer to the divine, is awakening in us the reality of the divine and love for the divine. And it doesn't, Dharma is not fulfilling its purpose if it doesn't do that for us. So sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo. If you come to my love with love, I will free you. Aham tva sarva papebhyo. I will liberate you from all sins. Be not afraid. Mokshayishyami ma sucha. Don't be anxious, don't be afraid. Come to me. Come to my love with love. I think this is a very beautiful teaching that I wanted to share with you this morning. And so I will stop here and invite any of your thoughts or comments before we conclude.
Enjoyed your prediction immensely. I had not looked at the verse in that context in the past anytime. And amazing the way you put the thoughts of everything based upon love and relationship that Jesus Christ was related, discussing, answering the other rabbi. That's amazing way of doing it. I looked at it a slightly different way because Shri Krishna had taken such a tremendous amount of pain and effort to teach his favorite cousin Arjuna as to why he should perform certain actions when his mind was confused in a war that he thought was appropriate under the circumstances. But overwhelmed with emotions, he could not do it. And then Sri Krishna took all 680 verses to explain to him all the wisdom that can be explained. Itite jnanam akyatam guhyad guhyataram maya mimushrena dakshena yatha ichchasi tata kuru. At the end he said, I taught you all the thing I wanted to teach. Whatever wisdom I wanted to share with you, I did. But having shared that with you, yatha ichchasi tata kuru. Do as your conscience tells you. And obviously he realized that he imparted knowledge, tried to remove the confusion in his mind, imprison his mind. He has to undertake the war which will involve a lot of death. And then he was trying to explain in this verse, I taught you all that. And when you having taught you that, you might consider the consequences of the actions that you'll take based on my teaching. And that's why he mentioned sarva dharman parityajya, having renouncing all the pursuits, that all the actions you take. Mam ekam sharanam vraja, take refuge in me alone. And as you understand, Arjuna, these actions will create certain amount of negative consequences. Those papa we call consequences in this situation. I'll release you from all these consequences of action. So please do not grieve. So having given the knowledge which is necessary for Arjuna to undertake certain actions which were necessary, however painful it was, offered him a choice of doing whatever he pleased. But if he was considering the concerns that would have arisen in his mind, because those with negative consequences, Sri Krishna gave him the options. Don't worry about it. take refuge in me alone, because you won't be responsible for the consequences of the actions, because you are identifying with me as the Atma or the God, Lord. So you don't have the responsibility of that. Do what is appropriate under the circumstances. That's the way I looked at it. I mean, the way you described it so amazingly beautiful about putting love in everything that you do.
Yeah.
But I thought he was trying to explain to us is don't worry about the consequences. What you're doing is the right thing for you, because all those consequences are directly related coming to me. Don't worry about it. That's the way I looked at it. But your way of description was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments, Rishi. I think surely this verse is also deeply suggestive. I think that's what you are pointing to. Deeply suggestive also of karma yoga. Because if all actions are performed for the sake of love, yat karoshi, yat ashnasi, yat juhosi, dadasi, yat whatever you do it for my sake. Then it means also that one has a certain disposition to the results of those actions. So I think, the verse is also suggesting the offering of everything that God means that, the results are also surrendered to the divine. And therefore, as you said, the karma pala, there is moksha from karma.
Yeah.
That's I think you enriched the verse with your comments. Thank you.
Anand, Prasanna here.
Yes.
I think I agree with your interpretation. Very nice. And Dr. Sane's interpretation, there's no contradiction between what you said and what he said. And in very simple terms, you have taught us before, perform everything as offering to God, Ishwararpana Buddhi. That's what he's talking about. Egocentric dharma is out of the question. But कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. You do that, I'll take the consequences.
Yes. Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, I think, connects very well with what Shashi was saying. And it's very much consistent with reading this verse as well. So I think I like the way you put it, Prasanna. The verse is also a caution against the reality that dharma can also unfortunately be motivated from a place of egocentricity, and it should not be. It should always come from a place of love, and that's why it finds its highest fulfillment.
Dr. Rambachan, I have a question for you or comment.
Yes.
This is Naina.
Yes.
I enjoyed your discussion, and especially when it comes to Dharma, I always enjoy that discussion, because to me, as a Hindu, I feel the dharmic life, that is what I'm trying to attain. And Dharma means so much. I mean, it gives you morality and your duties and obligations, and, as you say, so many levels. I mean, it has so many meanings as well. And even Dharma as being the first goal, to me, that's like it serves as a guardrail for you, because we don't know as human beings what we are capable of how much destruction we can do, but they are your core guardrails. Even the next goal, which is artha, without dharma, it is meaningless. It's only greed and avarice. And without, the kama, which is pleasure and unbridled desire.
Yes.
So the dharma is what contains that and whatnot.
Yes.
So, all of this to me is very important, what you suggested. And then that last verse, I don't interpret it just as you don't, that give up all your dharma. Obviously, Arjun still has to fight, as Dr. Sande said. He's been urged to do the right thing in all 18 chapters until you get to this passage. And then all of a sudden, maybe there's a little turn that give up your dharma. But I don't think it's literal, just as you suggested and what Dr. Sani suggested, surrender to me. So, and love being the absolute motivation for everything. I mean, that is what you should have as a motivation, although it's not always. It can be duty, it could be coercion, it could be so many other things that could motivate you to do the right thing. But ultimately, it is love in
Yes.
this world that is predominant. I mean, primary. So anyway, I don't know if that was a question, but you can comment.
It's good to hear your comments, and I think you gave a very beautiful summary. And you're so right, in the order of the goals, which is Hindu tradition, dharma is the first. Dharma, then artha, kama. We have to root ourselves, as you said, in concern for others, in compassion, in non-violence, before then alone, we can properly pursue wealth and pleasure. But if we don't, then we will pursue those in ways that are destructive, that are harmful of others, that lack generosity and lack compassion. So, in that, as far as the goals are concerned, dharma is the root, the foundation. It sets the parameters, it sets the boundaries, which enables us to pursue personal goals, but with attentiveness to the common good. Dharma is concerned with the common good. All that we do, we must keep in mind the common good. What Sri Krishna speaks of in chapter 3 is loka sangraha, the flourishing of everyone. Dharma seeks to move us from selfishness or self-centeredness to concern for others. Not that one should not pursue one's own particular and personal goals, but we are called to pursue these in socially responsible ways. And I think you put it very well.